For once, ibonds are out. High yield savings and certificates of deposits or CDs are better. Hello there, I'm Alex and welcome to Sinspiration, the only place where I inspire you to develop a growth mindset. Over the past few years, I've been advocating the ibond as the best way to earn fixed income from your savings because the interest rate is equal to the inflation rate plus a fixed rate. So you're always going to be matching or maybe even beating inflation. The combined rate for this interest rate is almost always larger than the interest rate of other types of fixed income assets, including putting into a high yield savings or certificate of deposit, CD. In fact, last year, I made a video about selling old ibonds to buy new ibonds to lock in the highest fixed rate since 2007 at 1.3%. But recently, high yield savings and CDs have been offering better interest rates than ibonds, and these two have always been more flexible than ibonds. Let me show you how. The current combined rate of ibonds is only 3.11%. The fixed rate is 1.2% and the inflation rate is 1.91%. The good news is that inflation has come down so that the prices of goods and services aren't increasing as fast, which is good for me and you. Also, the interest rates are still relatively high and the Fed has not decided to decrease them in the time being. The bad news is your ibonds aren't generating a lot of interest income for you. 3.11% is down from 9.62% back in October of 2022. You also can't withdraw the money within the first year of owning the ibond, and you will lose 3 months of interest if you decide to withdraw it between 1 and 5 years of owning it. The early withdrawal penalty wasn't as bad before because the interest rate of the ibonds was significantly higher than that of high yield savings and CDs. But nowadays, the interest rates of these two accounts are actually higher than those of ibonds. And so therefore, it makes no sense to purchase ibonds today. High yield savings give about 100 to 300 times more interest than your standard checking or savings account with your bank. Over the past decade, high yield savings have offered annual interest rates of between 1 to 5%. Compare that to only 0.01% in your checking account. These are all solid options for having high yield savings accounts depending on what you're already using. I personally use Ally, but a lot of my friends and family also use Marcus Goldman Sachs. As of the recording of this video, the current interest rate on high yield savings on Ally is 3.8%. Compare 3.8% to 3.11% for ibonds. That's a huge gap. You also aren't required to lock in your money for 12 months and you don't have early withdrawal penalties. You are limited to a number of withdrawals every single month, but clearly it is much more flexible to have your money in high yield savings than ibonds. CDs are also good options if you want to lock in a high interest rate for a fixed amount of time. From the options I see on Ally, I see high 3s and low 4s for terms between 6 and 18 months. The 3-year and 5-year terms have lower rates because it is likely the federal interest rate will fall in the coming years. These CDs, except for the 3-month term, give higher interest rates than ibonds. The shorter terms also give you more flexibility with when you want to close the account completely and to avoid penalties. There are early withdrawal penalties for CDs, but the amounts are only about 2 months of interest for the CDs you'll most likely get, the 3 to 24 month CDs. Given that the interest rates between high yield savings and CDs are so close, and the fact that the Fed will unlikely decrease the interest rates in the coming months, due to a solid economy, strong labor market, and sticky inflation. Both are good options at this time. It comes down to how much flexibility you want with your savings and whether you care about that extra 0.1 or 0.2% of interest. I personally am going to go with the 6-month, 9-month, or 12-month CDs. I will add that it would be advisable to lock in one of the higher term CDs like 12 months or 18 months right before you think the Fed will lower the interest rates. So stay up to date with the news. At this time, it is not advisable to buy ibonds and instead resort to opening a high yield savings or a CD to earn more interest income with higher flexibility. One last question you might be wondering: should you sell your ibonds? If you held it for less than 12 months, then you don't have a choice but to hold on to it until then. If you've held it between 1 to 5 years, then you will lose 3 months of interest when you sell it. So figure out if the interest that you would make if you were to move to a high yield savings or CD would be more than if you sold the ibond at this lower interest rate. Also, don't forget that when you sell ibonds, you'll have to pay federal income tax. Another thought is, do you think that inflation will pick up in the coming years? If you recently purchased an ibond at a relatively high fixed rate, such as 1.2% or 1.3%, then you will be glad that you held onto this ibond when inflation does pick up, because then you'll be making 1.2, 1.3% plus the inflation rate, which historically has been higher than the interest rate of high yield savings and CDs. I personally am going to hold on to my ibonds, but I'm also going to diversify my savings into high yield savings accounts and CDs, so I take advantage of everything. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe to get updates on new videos, and check out my page for more content on how to grow your mindset in self-growth, personal finance, and career development. You've been inspired today. Interest income is a simple game that anyone, including you, can play well in once you know the rules.